Bodine 52, how are you, folks? I am out and about today with my beautiful bride, Mrs. Bodine. Say hello.
Hello.
Today I want to talk to you, or we want to talk to you, about motorcycle dealerships. And are they really one better than the other? I'm going to share my experience of buying this 2021 Road Glide Limited. Goes by the name of Big Red.
I don't think so. It's Duchess.
Ay, ay, ay.
Duchess.
All right, folks, regardless of the Mrs. Bodine getting the name wrong of Big Red.
I'm never wrong.
She's saying we're going to name this bike Duchess, but we don't know that it's not a dude bike. How do we know it's a dude bike? Did you check the tailpipe?
Yep.
And it's a chick?
It's a chick.
All right, folks, let us know what you think. Is it Duchess? Do I need to make her happy since I bought the bike? Maybe? I don't know. Well, we'll think about that, but I want to share my experience of buying this motorcycle with you. And tell you the bad part and then tell you the great part. And so, first of all, if you follow the channel, you know I had a 2018 Ultra Limited, went by the name of Big Mama. And I was taking Big Mama in for a problem that I was having. And it was going in the day after Memorial Day. And I had some slight... I was thinking a little bit about maybe I should consider getting another bike. Or is this the time to get another bike? Though, I swore I was going to keep that bike forever, because that's what I do.
Right.
Anyway, regardless of what Mrs. Bodine says...
When you set your mind to something, you go for it.
She's a little out there today. But, so I take I'm thinking to myself, since the day it's getting worked on is the first of the month, if I'm really going to buy another bike, why don't I just go ahead and go over there and at least look, so when I drop the bike off, I can maybe test ride a couple different bikes, right? And then I'm like, and considering it's the end of the month, and it was a holiday weekend, I'm like, well, maybe I can, they'll want to make a deal or something, right? If I find something I like. Even though I really wasn't convinced that I really wanted to do it at this point, right? Hey, Mrs. Bodine, there's an ice cream place. We're passing by it.
No, that's not Captain Frosty or the Twisties in Chelsea.
Captain Frosty or Captain Morgan?
Captain Morgan makes good ice cream.
It's Captain Frosty's, folks. Mrs. Bodine has a...
Frosty.
Yeah. Well, you know what? Hey, I understand you're still getting, from your time in the Betty Ford Clinic. You're still working.
Some people say I have a drinking problem.
All right. So back to the case at point. So I go over to the dealership. And by the way, I'm not going to mention this dealership. And, they've had some turnover and stuff there. I don't know all the details, right? So all I care about is my experience, to be honest with you. And I get a sales kid. He's a young guy. And just tell him kind of what I'm thinking. And I originally was going to get another Ultra Limited. And I said, hey, look, I'm bringing the bike over Tuesday. And I'm just... I'd consider trading it, but I need to know what this bike is worth. So it was a 2018 Ultra Limited with roughly 10,000 miles on it. Bunch of stuff I did to it, doesn't matter, right? They don't care about that. All they care about is, the bike's the VIN number, right? So he, and their system there is the salesperson talks to like this assistant sales manager, then goes and talks to the manager. You know how it is when you buy a bike or a car. It's usually a mess, right? It's just unpleasant, if you will. No matter if you negotiate to the end point you want or not, just getting there is just a waste of everybody's time. But, so, he gets all my information. I have the bike with me. I actually tell him that I have the title with me, because I was fortunate to own Big Mama. And so, that's kind of a hint, right? I got a title, I got my bike with me. Huh. So the sales manager comes over and she says, she's bringing back the initial offer, right? And she goes, we'll give you $16,000 for your bike. Here's the cost of the new one. I'm like, all right, I appreciate that. I'm like, we're way out of range, so I'm just getting my bike fixed anyway. I really wasn't that serious. And she goes, well, what do you want for it? And I said, well, if I was going to get rid of it, I would want 22 for it, knowing that I'm not going to get 22 for it. And she says, all right, well, let me go back to my manager and think about it, or talk to him about it, see if we can do any better, right? So, I'm waiting. There's a couple other people there, and I get that. 15 minutes goes by, walk around the dealership for the 30th time. 30 minutes go by, and the poor salesperson I'm working with, I'm like, dude, I'm not lasting much longer. So, he's like, well, they'll be back. Let me see if I can do anything, right, to help it. Needless to say, an hour goes by, and I'm like, give me your phone number. Here's my cell. Call me when you got a number. So I walk out, right, because they're screwing around, right? And so I'm like, maybe this is just a sign I shouldn't get the bike anyway. I'm like, I'm going to get it fixed. It's no big deal. I love the bike, right? Not enough to get rid of it, but I love the bike. And so I get home, and I'm like, I still have to take it back Tuesday to get it fixed. And I'm like, okay, it's no big deal. I may have to put tires on it. And I'm like, okay, this is all right, I guess. I was a little perturbed that I drove, 80 miles to get there. But, hey, you're out on the bike. Who cares, right? So I'm sitting there, and I'm like, I want to call another dealership. Because while I was sitting there waiting, I sat on a Road Glide Limited. And if you watch my last video, and I'll link that here at the end, I was never going to get a Road Glide because I just didn't necessarily like the look of the fairing. But I sat on it while I was waiting for an hour, so I guess that's good. And I'm like, man, this is pretty cool. I think I may ride one of these, right, just to check it out, because everybody's bugging the crap out of me. If you're going to get a new bike, get one. So I get home, I go up to my office in my house, doing a couple things, and I'm like, I really like that Midnight Crimson, which is basically a dark burgundy as far as I'm concerned, because I'm a guy. We don't know colors, right? Pink, blue, yellow, white, purple, that's all I know. So I'm getting ready to check out this other dealership that's a little further from me, and it's called Capital Harley Davidson. So while I'm on looking for their number, my phone rings, and it's that dealership I was just at. And it's the sales manager. And she says, hey, I'm sorry that, we were kind of tied up. And I didn't tell you the part where I asked her about the difference in prices between the Road Glide and the Ultra Limited, because I knew what they were. And she basically told me that the Road Glide was more expensive because of the fairing, which is actually just not true. And it's actually not the case from a dollar perspective. It's only $200 or $300, but it's not more, because that's what she started with. I'm like, okay, now it's used car salesperson game, right? So she gives me a call and apologizes. So I'm just like, okay, hey, no big deal. I said, she's like, we'll give you $19,500 for your bike. And it's because you need new tires and the 10,000 mile service wasn't done. So I said, nope, 10,000 mile service was just done. And she's like, oh, okay. Well, maybe I can get them up to 20. And at this point, I'm not talking about financing stuff, because that's the kiss of death if you ever tell somebody what you want for a payment, by the way. Don't do that, folks. Always talk about the number, right? You can figure the financing stuff out later, because that's where they'll get you. And I'm like, okay, I'll come over tomorrow. So I'm still a little perturbed. So I call Capital Harley Davidson just outside of Lansing, Michigan. And the girl answers the phone, and she says, hello, Capital Harley. And I said, hey, can you connect me with a salesperson? She goes, sure. 1 minute, please. So a woman picks up the phone, and I said, hi, are you a salesperson? I'm looking for a salesperson. She goes, well, kinda. I'm the owner. I'm like, oh, hi. She goes, hi. So I just said, hey, look, do you have an Ultra Limited and a Road Glide Limited in Crimson? And she says, hang on, let me check. She goes, yeah, I do. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. So I'm like, now I could really check them both out. I mean, I know what the Ultra Limited is like, right? And so I'm telling her the story. I said, I got to be honest with you. I just left a dealership, shall not be named, and I'm telling her kind of the story. And I said, she came back basically since I left and offered me $4,000 more after, jerking me around, blah, blah, blah. And she was so cool. And she goes, I'm really sad to hear that. She said, because if you're a Harley person, so you're going to buy a new Harley. But if somebody was new to Harley, they may not ever buy a Harley because of that experience. And she's like, I don't want to badmouth any dealership, right? But that's what's concerning about it to me. So I tell her the deal, and I said, you have both of those in stock? And she's like, I do. And she's like, what is your bike again? And I told her, and she says, hey, let me call you back. I said, okay, fine. She goes, I'll call you in 10 minutes. So guess what? Imagine that. 10 minutes later, she calls me. Now, I'm dealing with the owner of this dealership, right? And she says, all right, I'm a little rusty at this, but here's the deal. We have both of those bikes. The Road Glide's a couple $100 less. They're pretty much the same. I go, yeah. And she said, and we'll give you $20,600 for your motorcycle. She goes, I want to see it, but I'm like, okay. And now I'm like, wait a minute. She's not been jerking me around. She's been really honest with me. And I'm like, I'll be there in an hour. So I go up to the dealership. They already have, because I told her I really wanted to ride the Road Glide Limited, right? They have it prepped. They have it full of gas. I pull in. She comes out with one of her sales guys and introduces herself and how's the ride up, all good. And she says, hey, we got the bike here prepped for you to ride. And the sales guy says, hey, why don't I take your Mustang seat off your current bike and put it on that so you'll know what it really feels like. Huh, imagine that. Somebody being smart and courteous and thinking about the customer, right? And so I take the bike for a ride, and I'm just like, oh, okay, I don't need to ride the Ultra. This is it. I don't need to ride the Limited. So, needless to say, I come back in. How was the ride? I come back. They're kind of there to meet me, which was cool. Hey, granted, it was in 3 o'clock on a weekday, so they weren't, they weren't slammed like a weekend. And I go, I really like it. And it's funny because two of the sales guys, one guy's a Limited Ultra guy, one guy's a Road Glide. The Road Glide comes out. They come out together, right, kind of joking. Road Glide goes, it changed your life, didn't it? I go, I hate to admit it, I do like it better. So, needless to say, I go in. We do the quick credit thing. I'm like, you know what? I may just finance this thing. Because at this point, it's still a lot of money, but remember, I traded my Ultra in, right? So he's like, yep, let me run the credit real quick. We'll be back. He comes back 10 minutes later. He says, all right, we're all good. Need you to switch your insurance, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, okay. So he sits down for the old, you should buy the paint coverage and all that stuff. He's like, hey, let me go through these options with you, what I think is good and what is not good, right? So he talks about the extended warranty, and I get that, whether you're in for that or not. It comes with a 2-year. I decided to go ahead and take another 3 years on top of it. And he's like, hey, there's some tire service, blah, blah, blah. He goes, so if you look at this, it costs about $700 if you have one. No pressure, just giving me the options. He's like, this is not bad, but maybe how you ride, you don't need it. So, it's just one of those, it was like a pleasant experience. And everybody's there they're kind of like family, and granted, they're a little small of a dealership than the one I was in, but it's a perfect example of somebody that runs a large business and has really spent most of his life in service. I'm going to talk to the team when I go back to work going, let me tell you the two differences, right? I'll never go back to that other dealership, and I will always, as a matter of fact, Mrs. Bodine and myself are just coming back from the dealership that I bought the bike, and guess what? We spent another $150 there, right? And that was Mrs. Bodine gifts, considering I bought the bike. She got $150 worth of stuff. I figure that's a pretty good deal, right, Mrs. Bodine?
Awesome deal.
But I am just saying, dealerships, people matter. And at the end of the day, you still buy from people. You buy the product. You buy the company or the dealership. And just everybody was there, was cool. We went back today and we pulled in because I needed to grab a couple things out of the bike. They're having a little cookout. The owner, by the way, her name is Shannon, is out there cooking. Says, "Hi, Bob." Right? And by the way, the morning after I got home on the bike, she called me the next day. Or actually, she texted me, and she said, "Hey, it's Shannon. Just want to make sure you got home safe. How was the ride? How was the bike?" I kind of typed her back. I'm like, "Hey, it was great. Hey, I left a couple things on my bike. I'd like to get the liners out of it." She's like, "No problem. I'll call over and have it at the front desk for you tomorrow." A couple days later, we went and got it. But she's like, "By the way, this is my personal cell phone. If you need anything, let me know." Right? So, of course, I get home and I get a text from the old place. It says, "Hey, let us know what time you're coming in tomorrow so we can have a salesperson ready for you." Right? And I'm going to share you my text response that Mrs. Bodine says was not appropriate. I'm taking off the names and the numbers, but it's right here. Boom. That's how I roll. But dealerships matter. People matter. Relationships matter. And Capital Harley Davidson in Lansing, if you're even thinking about a motorcycle or want to go to a place that's pretty cool, and according to Mrs. Bodine, has the best couches and chairs.
Oh my God, yes.
In the world. A lot of selection, new and used service department. Everybody seems really cool. Great experience. Check them out. But
perfect for the man cave.
Exactly. But hey, let us know your experience. Maybe let's keep it positive. A positive experience that you had at a dealership or somewhere else that you bought a bike, whether it was Harley or something else. Because who cares? We're all riders. And tell us what was good about it. And if you feel good enough, put their name in there and who it was. I'm not going to share the bad people, but I'm going to definitely share the good one. That is for sure. So, Mrs. Bodine, I know I did a lot of talking on this one, but I feel so much better that I got a new bike, and I got that off my chest now.
Awesome.
All right.
Gotta be happy.
Absolutely, and you make me happy, darling.
Oh, thank you.
And I think me buying the bike for $150 worth of gear was appropriate trade.
Exactly.
That a girl. All right, folks, we're going to let you go. Thanks for listening in. This is Bodine and Mrs. Bodine, 52. Checking out. Be safe. Be vigilant. Check on a friend. And what else, Mrs. Bodine?
Don't forget to click the subscribe button and have a great day.
All right, folks. Bye-bye. Be safe.